Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. The Temple of the Union is a small compound of escaped slaves who wish to create a haven to protect and inspire all runaway slaves. The temple's leader, Hannibal Hamlin, dreams of a safe haven for would-be slaves away from slavers. Their respect of Abraham Lincoln is almost reverent, and they wish to set up their temple in the Lincoln Memorial, not only because it would be easier to defend, but he is also known to the slaves as the man who ended slavery in America. Because of this, Hannibal Hamlin will offer to buy any of Lincoln's artifacts. Caleb escaped slavery 8 years ago. He was successful while his fellow slaves John and Liesel were not. During his time as a slave, his master taught him the art of stone cutting. When he ran away from his master, he fell into a band of raiders. Once he heard about Hannibal Hamlin and the Temple of the Union, however, he promptly left the raiders and joined Hannibal. He is the first of Hannibal's followers and uses the skills he learned from his master to restore any stone structure Hannibal asks of him, with hopes of restoring the statue of Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial by reaffixing its head. Caleb uses and prefers melee weapons rather than armed weapons, as he can be heard asking Simone to teach him how to operate firearms. Bill had been a slave his entire life before running away from his master after having accidentally killed their daughter. Had the accident not occurred, he would never have attempted an escape. In the hours after the incident, Bill was found by Hannibal Hamlin, saving him from a fate of recapture or succumbing to a wasteland danger. Despite no longer being subservient, Bill can still be found cooking and cleaning, or caring for and feeding the Brahmin and the dog, fourscore. Although he can be heard insulting the former, he has a particular affinity for the latter, praising fourscore for his unconditional love towards him. Simone Cameron was part of a mercenary crew before slavers took her. She was a slave for only 7 months, feigning obedience and escaping as soon as the opportunity presented itself. As a former mercenary, she is very comfortable with weapons and fighting, and possesses the highest combat skill out of all of Hannibal's followers. She is a rough and tough person, with a total lack of respect for almost anyone except Hannibal. Alejandra is a quiet woman of great intelligence. She was captured by slavers at 17 and sold into slavery. Her enslaver forced her to have sex, and seemed to like her well enough to provide her with an education, including the ability to read and write, history, mathematics, and basic science. After he married, his new wife demanded that Alejandra be sold. After 4 years in captivity, Alejandra was sold again, this time to Hannibal Hamlin, who promptly returned her freedom. A free person again at 21, Alejandra joined Hannibal, becoming the group's teacher, historian, and tinkerer. She helps educate the group, starting with basic literacy. Caleb Smith is one of her students and would like nothing more than becoming someone more significant, but Alejandra maintains a professional distance. She also works with him on reconstructing the Gettysburg Address, gathering references so that Smith can restore the inscription. She is also trying her best to accommodate Bill Seward, one of the victims of slavers who found refuge at the temple. In general, she is not fond of violence, but works with Simone Cameron nonetheless. Alejandra is fiercely loyal to Hamlin and fully believes in the dream of once more building a world in which all men are created equal and free. While she trusts him with her own life, she also believes that everyone should make up their own mind about following him. Her goal, once the Lincoln Memorial is liberated, is to build a shrine to Abraham Lincoln and establish a school to educate other people who successfully escaped slavery. Hannibal wants to relocate his slave haven from the Temple of the Union to the Lincoln Memorial and restore the memorial as a sign of freedom, despite the fact that it would undoubtedly attract unwanted attention. Hannibal requests for the player character to scout the Lincoln Memorial to see if it is still occupied by super mutants. He will also ask the player character to assist former slave Caleb Smith, and will ask the player character to obtain a picture of the Lincoln Memorial in the Museum of History so that he will have reference material to help him restore the Lincoln Memorial. After scouting the Lincoln Memorial, one is required, as an objective, to clear the memorial of all enemies, specifically the slavers currently occupying the memorial. If one enters the memorial, the slavers will immediately become hostile and attack player character, regardless of whether one has started the Head of State quest. Once the memorial has been cleared of all slavers, the player character can return to the Temple of the Union. Alternatively, if the player character has been to the Temple of the Union, they can tell the slavers that the slaves are hiding out near Old Olney. Results in bad karma. The first time the player character talks to Leroy Walker, he will ask them to find items related to Lincoln. The second time the player character talks to Walker, or after they trade the first Lincoln item, Walker will ask the player character to locate Hannibal Hamlin. If the player character sells out the location of Hannibal, Walker will tell them that they will be waiting for the player character's help there. Walker and his slavers will then leave the Lincoln Memorial. Upon telling the slavers where the temple is, a battle occurs there if Caleb's section of the quest, retrieving the poster, has not yet been completed. In this case, the slavers will leave the memorial and run to the temple. Once the slavers arrive, one needs to speak to Leroy to trigger the attack. He can be found waiting under the highway west of the Temple of the Union. Several slavers will also appear sneaking outside the temple immediately after its location is revealed, but most of them will likely be killed by random encounters before Leroy arrives. Once the slavers are dead, one can continue on the original quest, helping the slaves. Upon reporting back to Hannibal Hamlin that there are no super mutants in the Lincoln Memorial, Hannibal will gather up the runaway slaves and head for the memorial. He will tell the player character he and his team will start off within the hour. Once Hannibal's crew all leave the temple and travel a bit down the road, the player can then fast travel to the Mall Northwest Metro station, where Hannibal will eventually arrive. It is recommended to wait 24 hours at the meeting location. If the player character escorts the group, they can, along the way, tell Hannibal to wait here while I scout ahead. He will wait for 6 game hours and then continue on his journey with or without the player character. When one has cleared a path for them, Hannibal can be told it's safe now, and they will resume the trek. The waypoint will show that one needs to meet Hannibal at the Mall Northwest Metro station. Upon arrival, Hannibal will thank the player character. The group will then proceed to the memorial and the quest will be completed. In the event that the slavers still occupy the Lincoln Memorial, when Hannibal Hamlin and the runaway slaves arrive, they will ask the player character to help them kill the slavers. If one does not tell Hannibal to wait while they check it out, then Hannibal will lead the runaway slaves in an assault on the Lincoln Memorial. Hannibal is usually killed, which will fail the quest. However, if the one tells Hannibal they will investigate the memorial, Hannibal will wait. This method will allow one to go into the memorial and kill the slavers that occupy it. Then, when one reports back to Hannibal, there will be no one to kill Hannibal when he leads the charge and the quest can be completed. Simulation completed. Please exit the pod or have a technician select another file.